What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
Now, we're sitting here in the end of September 2023. The next election is November 2024. When you were on well, now the Danny Jones podcast, number 127, on, I guess, like March 27, 2022, so that's a while ago now. That's when you first said, in the lead up to the 2024 election, China's going to take Taiwan.
You'll see China make a massive move on Taiwan.
It sounds like you're you're even more strong about that now.
All in on that, absolutely. What is that move going to look like? I never said it was going to be warships invading Taiwan borders.
Roll the tape, Steven.
Yeah, for real. If we have it, I would love to see it. I would love to see exactly what I said because I'm still saying that what we're going to see is we're going to see a massive move. That move could be a political move like they did in Hong Kong, where all of a sudden they just export all of Beijing's laws.
Yeah, what happened there in Hong Kong?
The short
Side
memory.
note?
The short memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was basically a turnkey over like the preceding 3 years, from 2016 to 2019. Beijing started exporting their legal code and codifying it as Hong Kong law. So then the protests that happened in Hong Kong were a response to the fact that Beijing laws were now enforceable in Hong Kong and the people didn't vote for that.
Right.
So that's it. That legal approach they've been doing that in Taiwan for probably the last 10 years.
Obviously the legal system in China is way different than ours. But
Correct.
what if you had to explain it to a fifth grader to get across like how it works, other than the obvious of Xi Jinping decides what happens? Like, is there any like real court in China? Is there anything that's not completely decided from the top, or is it exactly what it looks like?
It's not from the top, technically. It's from the Communist Party. It's from the CCP.
Okay.
So the party controls everything. Arguably, the party controls everything here, too.
Definitely.
It's the Democratic National Convention or the Republican National Convention that dictates everything. Every opportunity we have comes from one of those two conventions, parties.
Okay.
Right? So China has a Communist Party, and that party runs the policy and the legal infrastructure for everything that happens in the country. Taiwan is considered by most of the world to be a part of China already. One country, two systems.
One China Danny over here agrees.
That's the way it's been for a long
think
time.
you made fun of me for saying that one day.
I did. Yeah. You're like, yeah, you're on a podcast with Ryan and you're like, I'm watching it like in the
That
middle
was
of the
Ryan
night.
Tate. God, you guys
And you're like, yeah, I never thought of Taiwan as its own thing. I just always thought that was China. I'm like,
Yep.
I'm like,
that is the formal policy of most countries. The countries that don't agree with that are like little poor countries that whatever. I don't think there's one major developing nation that recognizes Taiwan. Not one. Right? So what that means is that the Chinese system gets to run independently. They have their own president, right? They have their own voting process, et cetera. They have their own military, compulsory service for 4 months.
Is that what it is?
what does that even
military-
mean?
Yeah.
Compulsory
exactly.
service?
It means that every person in Taiwan is forced to serve,
Oh, got it.
but they only have to serve for 4 months.
So that's just basic.
What do you
training,
learn? How to
basically.
load a gun?
So they train.
Call it a
Yeah,
day?
train.
They don't
to
have
walk out.
they don't have enough guns.
How legit
No.
is Taiwan's military?
Not. It's not legitimate, and there's no pride in the military either. So here in the United States, we have a great deal of pride in our military.
Do we?
It's not that way in Taiwan.
I think we have a lot of pride.
You should
we-
see some of
we
the shit that Jack
definitely-
Murphy's posting.
What do you mean?
If you go to
Enlighten
Jack
us.
Murphy's Twitter, he's showing some of these like things that are going on inside the army and some of these bases and these people like. You saw the video. What was there? There was like some army guy. They were like having a competition, sucking a d- or something.
Oh yeah. That was months
Jeez.
ago he posted that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
like a month
I
ago.
think what Andy's more referring to, like Jack reports, that was a great podcast you did with him, by the way. But Jack reports on a lot of stuff happening within the military because he comes from that world, it seems
Right.
like. Whereas I think and correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're referring to is like how our national people look at our military.
Yeah, still, and it's regionalized too. Still,
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is.
but I think the thing is, our recruitment numbers have consistently been brought down because we cannot attract people to go in.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the country's fault along the way. I mean, we've done some stupid shit with our military. We've not paid them well. We've not treated them well.
Yeah.
The lack of respect
Yep.
in certain areas of the country. But I think that is the whole reason we have to, we have to bring in some folks that are not as great.
And at the end of the day, we still have a professional standing military.
Absolutely.
You don't get a professional standing military from 4 months of compulsory service.
No.
So
In a small
Taiwan
country.
doesn't have that. Yeah, exactly.
There's no esprit de corps. There's no
Right.
there's
It
no
just doesn't-
believing they're
Yeah.
a
So
team.
if you can imagine, China, for all we know, because none of us have the ability to even look at the legal code in Taiwan and understand how it's different from the legal code in Beijing, right? Taipei, Beijing, 2 separate capital cities, but we don't know where their legal code overlaps. And it's going to be in Chinese, simplified or traditional Chinese, depending on which country you're talking about, right? When you get there to see it yourself. For all we know, the legal code has already been changed there, just like it was already changed in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a matter of one policy that Xi Jinping passes, the CCP passes, that says something like, now all members of Taiwan are hereby required to register as state members of China. And then there's going to be protests or whatever else. What China can run a blockade and just cut Taiwan off from the rest of the world. They can do that. They can do that without ever having to set foot on Taiwan. Right? They can create air dominance over Taipei, over Taiwan, just by
Aren't they
flying.
already running tests over that?
Exactly right. That's what they've been doing for the last 2 years.
And they're building some crazy, never before seen, like massive aircraft carrier, I think, right?
They're trying. Yeah. They're trying. They have the largest aircraft carrier fleet, second to us, and they have the world's newest aircraft carrier that's
Right.
out there. But technologically speaking, I think technologically speaking, they have technically the most advanced aircraft carrier, but none of their aircraft carriers have been tested in combat, which is where they stand different from us.
Hey guys, can I ask you for a quick favor? If you look at this chart to my right, you will see that around 85% of our viewers for the month of September were not subscribed to the channel. And unfortunately, what that means is that YouTube will not put our videos into the algorithm, and therefore we will not be able to scale this show and continue to give you not only great content, but give you more of it. I'd love to be able to hire a team, have some more help around here so that I can put out more. And if you guys take 1 second to please hit that subscribe button right there, it will go a long way to helping. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the show.
But they also do have, like, there was a story that went around a few months ago. I don't know if Steven can find this, but they had to install inside of their military pilots, inside the helmets of their military pilots, they had to install explosives that could only be handled by the generals on the ground because too many of them were deserting. And so I look at China, and like you had asked the question a little bit ago about like how they look at things in the future, and you were saying positively, and maybe across the people, I believe you. But when I look at their military, some of it seems like a little bit like a joke. Like they don't have anywhere near the capabilities or the bought in ideology that most of ours, if not like all of ours, has here.
This is insane.
What is the source on this?
In
That's what I
recent
wanna know.
No
weeks,
reliable sources
users on
corroborate
TikTok
this
have
claim.
been sharing
Oh, look
content.
at the top. Look at the top. It says false.
Yep.
What's this from?
Logically.ai.
Fact check library. This is the problem.
Can you find it anywhere else this was
Absolutely, man.
published?
The fact there is no evidence to support the claim that Chinese soldiers are being equipped with
There you go.
The fact there's no evidence to support the claim that Chinese soldiers are being equipped with self-destructing helmets.
so that's how easy misinformation can be.
Bingo.
Fuck yeah.
That is exactly how easy
Got
misinformation
me.
can get out there.
Is this the only article that published this?
There's a lot of weird ones. There's like Asian markets.
Can you go back to Google?
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you guys something, right? Intel 101. If you are negotiating with a foreigner and you speak your language fluently and the target's language fluently, but the target only speaks their own language fluently, who has the advantage?
The
They
portion
do.
who speaks 2 languages.
They do.
You do.
Why don't they? Because they
you
can
ca-
decide it's on their terms, and you're not as strong in their language.
You have fluency in both. You have
Yeah,
fluency in both
or
languages.
like actual full blown command, as if I grew
Fluency
up
is
speaking
fluency, man, right? If you speak 2 languages fluently and your target only speaks their own language fluently, and you speak their language fluently and your own language fluently, right? Then that means you can control what information you say to them out loud, and you can control what information they don't understand.
Okay.
But you can still say it out loud.
Okay.
What China has over us is that they can write like this in English and post it on English language servers, on English language newspapers, and English language apps. And we read it in our home language and believe it to be true. Meanwhile, the Chinese people never see that in their own language.
Yeah.
So now the whole world thinks the Chinese people aren't even faithful to their own military, which is a complete misdirection.
And it's on TikTok too.
Yep.
It's on
Think of it.
TikTok?
Yeah, there's TikTok videos talking about it. That was the opening line of
This is
that article.
This is the age of information, right?
Find the TikTok video.
This is what happens
God.
when you control the information that other people see. And what we're stuck in the middle of is a giant information war.
There it is.
Look at this.
Son of a bitch. There's a lot of them.
Who
Look.
controls that?
You got to click the little
equipping their soldiers with helmets that have a self-destruct button. Let me repeat that. Chinese soldiers stationed in Tibet are being issued helmets that have self-destruct buttons. You press the button and a bomb that's embedded in the helmet goes off and kills the soldier. In fact, Chinese state-run media published an article bragging about these new helmets, writing, quote, "If a soldier is seriously wounded and doesn't want to be captured, he can activate the self-destruct function himself.
Pause
This
this.
can maintain his
Pause
dignity."
this. Pause this.
Enterprise what?
Hold on 1 second. Chinese state-run media issued the article. What language is that in?
It's in English.
That's good.
Wow, rewind that like 10 seconds.
Andy, that was
Article
good.
bragging about these new helmets, writing, quote, "If a soldier is seriously wounded and doesn't want to be captured, he can activate the self-destruct function himself. This can maintain his dignity." However, the soldier is now the only one who can activate the function. The report also mentioned that a commander who oversees the soldier can activate the helmet as well. And so what's the reason for all this? Well, the Chinese military has been, over the last several years now, struggling with soldiers deserting. And thus far, they've been using severe punishments against deserters, such as banning them from public transport, banning them from attending school, from operating a business, and even from getting a passport. And now they will be forced to fight, or otherwise they will be killed by their commander.
When an authoritarian country wants to punish a deserter, do you think they just take away their passport?
Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah.
You're never going to be able to travel.
Your whole family
Yeah.
will
Is
be
dead.
shamed.
Yes.
Yes, exactly right.
Shot and killed.
That's about as good of a live mic drop as I've seen on a
Dude,
podcast.
It's super important that people understand this. It's really important. Like when FBI and CIA and CISA, the counterintelligence security group of the nation, when they come out and they say that mis and disinformation are being spread, they're not just talking about Facebook ads that have a racially charged slur inside them. They're talking about stuff like this. China can produce misinformation in English and in Chinese and in Russian and in French and in German, and because that's what they have focused on.
We don't do that?
We can do that, but the problem with us is that we don't have the foreign language fluency that other countries
Our government doesn't, though? Come on.
Right. Nobody in the CIA does?
I don't
have.
think
No.
that's a good argument.
Hold on, guys. I said we don't have the same level that they do, because guess what the whole world speaks? English.
Yeah, but we have people who speak every language.
Dude, 5 people speaking Chinese can't keep up with 50 Chinese people who speak English. They can produce 10 times the amount of content than these 5 people can create.
Oh, you're talking about volume.
I'm talking
rather
about
than
everything.
Blasting.
I'm talking about quality too. Because guess what? A Chinese person who's been learning English since they were 5 is going to speak English in a superior level than an English speaker who's been learning Chinese since 9th grade.
Yeah, this is what I was confused about on your fluency question, by the way, because that's kind of what I'm getting at. Because the 9th grader may speak it fluently now, but they don't have the pizzazz with the language, the little intricate things. Like they can be
nuance.
fluent, but they
Right.
don't have the little nuances.
But I mean, boil all those, like I totally understand the details. I totally understand the nuances there, right? If you boil it down to its simplest level, they have 1.3 billion people. I'll bet they frankly have 3 people who speak English for every 1 person in the United States who speaks anything
makes
other than English.
Right.
And that's
Not speaks Chinese, but
Yep.
speaks anything other than English. So what's that? The ratios.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Right? That's how this kind of stuff. And one article, like if you think about it, right? The 80-20 rule tells us that for every 10 things that you create, only 2 things will actually make an impact. So we just watched one English language article created by state-run media that went up on TikTok. That means, according to the 80-20 rule, 9 other things were created and just didn't go anywhere. It's not like they created one article that was fake and that one article that was fake hit. It meant that they created 10 articles and that one article hit.
Well, at least they're also fact-checking the fact because it came from state-run media. So they're fact-checking. That's a positive. They're fact-checking something
Overregulated
from...
companies over-regulating themselves.
We see so many problems with like fact-checkers and stuff like that, but in this case, they're fact-checking a foreign government, state-run arm that's a dictatorship who's trying to put out information, and they're like, there's actually nothing good to support.
Well,
this.
TikTok's not.
Shout out to Google. for putting that-
TikTok.
Logically,
I'm saying the one we looked at.
Shout out to Google.
Yeah,
You're right.
Google did something good.
Yeah.
Google
Shout
did
out.
something good.
Exploding helmets. That's amazing. And how many idiots will watch that and say, "Holy shit! I'm glad I'm not in the Chinese."
Yeah, right. We're gonna kick their ass.
kill
They're
them.
all deserting.
Hey, you know what? You didn't come and give me lunch. Bow.
I read it and had it, video or not, I read it and had the same exact reaction.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.